The stars had watched humanity for a very long time. They had seen the first fires burning in caves. They had seen the first cities rise from dust. And they had seen the day when massive ships blocked the sun and cast shadows over the entire earth. That day came 10,000 years ago. Humanity was young then. They had just learned to make tools from bronze. They had just started to write their stories on clay tablets. They were proud of these small achievements. They did not know how small they truly were. The Valori Dominion arrived with 500 warships. Each ship was larger than any mountain on Earth. The Valori were not one species, but 12 different alien races joined together under one flag. They had ruled their part of the universe for millions of years. They had conquered thousands of worlds. Earth was supposed to be just another easy victory. The leader of that ancient fleet was named Torvax. He looked down at the primitive humans and felt something close to pity. These creatures had barely discovered metal. Their fastest transportation was a horse. Their most powerful weapon was a bronze sword. Torvax could have destroyed them all in a single afternoon, but the Valori had rules. They believed in giving primitive species a choice. It was a tradition that made them feel civilized and fair. So Torvax sent a message to the human leaders of that age. The message was simple. Humanity could surrender now and become servants of the Dominion. Or they could have 10,000 years of freedom before joining the Dominion as a servant race. The humans of that age were terrified. They had no choice at all. Their elders gathered and agreed to the truth. 10,000 years seemed like forever to them. It was more time than their entire civilization had existed. They signed the agreement and watched the alien ships disappear into the sky. The Valori laughed as they left. 10,000 years was nothing to them. They had seen countless species given such time. None of them ever advanced enough to matter. In 10,000 years, the Valori expected humans to perhaps discover basic flight or primitive radio signals. They would still be easy to conquer. The Valori were very, very wrong now, 10,000 years later. Admiral Kovan stood on the bridge of his flagship. The ship was called the Eternal Mandate. It was the pride of the Valori fleet, armed with weapons that could crack planets in half. Kovan had spent his entire career preparing for this moment. He would be the admiral who finally claimed Earth for thee. Dominion, his fleet, jumped out of hyperspace at the edge of the solar system. Kovan smiled as he looked at the tactical display. He expected to see a primitive world with perhaps a few satellites and maybe some small stations around their moon. The display showed something else entirely. Kovan blinked his 4 eyes. He ordered his crew to check the sensors. They checked them once, twice, 10 times. The readings did not change. The solar system was filled with human structures. Massive stations orbited every planet. Ships moved through space in organized patterns, thousands of them, tens of thousands. And at the center of it all, around the yellow sun itself, was a structure so large that Kovan could not understand what he was seeing. "What is that?" he whispered. His science officer, a female Valori named Pell, studied her instruments with shaking hands. "It appears to be some kind of energy collection device, Admiral. They have built a ring around their star." "That is impossible," Kovan said. "They were primitives. They had bronze swords. That was 10,000 years ago, Admiral." Kovan stood in silence for a long moment. Then he straightened his uniform and composed himself. This changed nothing, he told himself. The truce was over. The Dominion had legal claim to this world. Whatever tricks the humans had learned, they would still submit. He ordered his communications officer to send the formal declaration of Dominion. The message stated that the 10,000-year truce had ended. Earth and all human territories were now property of the Valori Dominion. Humanity would surrender immediately or face total destruction. The response came from a station floating near the 4th planet. It was called the Laughing Sun. The name should have been a warning. On board that station, Fleet Commander Taiho read the alien message with an expression of calm amusement. He was a tall man with gray hair and kind eyes that had seen many strange things in his long career. Beside him stood Chief Diplomat Hannah, a woman known throughout human space for her patience and wisdom. Military strategist Xiang Ho completed the trio, his sharp mind already calculating responses. They actually came, Hannah said, shaking her head slowly. After all this time, they actually came. Did anyone think they would not? Seung-ho asked. The Valori are nothing if not punctual. Tai-ho chuckled softly. I suppose we should have sent them a message. Updated them on current events. It seems almost cruel to let them find out this way. What do you want to do, Commander? Hannah asked. Tai-ho thought about it for a moment. He thought about the ancient ancestors who had signed that truce in fear and desperation. He thought about the 10,000 years of struggle and growth and triumph that followed. He thought about the hundreds of trillions of humans now spread across the universe, living on worlds the Velor had never even discovered. Then he laughed. It was a genuine laugh, warm and full of life. It echoed through the bridge and made his crew smile. Send them the welcome packet, Tai-ho said. Let them see what we have become. Hannah nodded and began preparing the transmission. Seung-ho watched the alien fleet on his display, so small and outdated. It felt something close to pity. The Valori had given humanity 10,000 years to prepare. They had no idea what they had created. Admiral Kovan had expected many things when he sent his declaration of war. He expected the humans to beg for mercy. He expected desperate negotiations and pathetic attempts to delay the inevitable. He expected fear, panic, and chaos. He did not expect a welcome packet. The transmission arrived on his ship with a friendly greeting. It was written in perfect Valori language, which was the first surprise. The humans should not have known their language at all. The message thanked the Valori for their visit and offered them detailed information about current human civilization. Kovan opened the files with confidence. He believed it would be propaganda, exaggerated claims designed to frighten his fleet into retreat. He was half right. The information was designed to inform. The frightening part was that all of it was true. The first file contained a map. Kovan stared at it without understanding. Then Pell explained what he was seeing, and his blood ran cold. Humanity had not stayed on Earth. They had not even stayed in their own galaxy. In 10,000 years, they had spread across 47 different galaxies. They had colonized over 800 worlds. Their population had grown from a few million frightened primitives to hundreds of trillions of people living on planets the Velor had never heard of. This cannot be accurate, Kovan said. His voice was barely a whisper. I've verified the data 17 times, Pell replied. Her hands were shaking so badly that she had to grip her console to steady herself. The sensor readings confirm everything in this packet. Admiral, the structures we detected in this system alone contain more people than our entire dominion. Kovan moved to the next file. It contained information about human technology. He read about ships that could cross galaxies in hours. He read about weapons that could destroy stars. He read about machines that could build entire cities in a single day. He read about medical technology that had extended human lifespan to nearly 1,000 years. The Valori had not invented anything new in over 2 million years. Their technology was ancient and stable. They had believed it was perfect, the peak of what any civilization could achieve. Now Kovan realized they had simply stopped trying. Humans had never stopped. On board the Laughing Sun, Lieutenant Yuna gave her briefing to the command staff. She was young for her position, barely 200 years old, but she had studied the Valori Dominion extensively. She knew their history, their culture, and most importantly, their military capabilities. Their weapons are based on kinetic projectiles and plasma bursts, Yuna explained. She kept her voice professional, but there was a hint of disbelief in her tone. These technologies were considered cutting-edge approximately 7,000 years ago in human development. 7,000 years, strategist Seung-ho repeated. He rubbed his forehead slowly. They have not advanced at all since then. Not significantly, sir. Their fastest ships travel at roughly 1/10 the speed of light. They have no faster-than-light communication. They have no dimensional folding capabilities. They have no gravity manipulation. Commander Tai-ho listened in thoughtful silence. He did not feel pride or superiority. He felt sad. The Valori had once been mighty enough to terrify an entire planet. Now they were coming to claim a prize they could never hope to hold, armed with weapons that humans had put in museums thousands of years ago. What is their fleet strength? Taiho asked. 500 ships, sir. Their flagship is approximately 3 kilometers long. Their combined firepower could perhaps damage one of our smaller moons. Anna sighed deeply. This is going to be a very difficult conversation. They will not believe us, Songho said. They will think the welcome packet is a lie. They will need to see proof. Then we will show them proof, Taiho decided. But gently. These are not enemies. They are simply people who do not yet understand the situation. Back on the Eternal Mandate, Admiral Kovan was trying to rally his officers. He stood before them in the main briefing room, projecting confidence he did not feel. The welcome packet had shaken them all. He needed to restore their fighting spirit. The humans are trying to deceive us, Kovan declared. This packet is clearly falsified. No species could advance this quickly. They are using psychological warfare to make us retreat without a fight. His officers murmured in uncertain agreement. They wanted to believe him. The alternative was too terrifying to accept. We will demand a demonstration, Kovan continued. We will call their bluff. When they fail to produce evidence of these supposed capabilities, we will proceed with the conquest as planned. The demand was sent to the Laughing Sun. Kovan expected the humans to make excuses or delay. Instead, they responded within minutes. We would be happy to provide a demonstration, the message said. We are sending a small vessel to your location. Please do not be alarmed. We mean you no harm. Kovan smiled grimly. A small vessel. The humans were sending a small vessel against 500 Valori warships. This would expose their lies once and for all. The Valori fleet detected the human ship approaching. It was tiny, barely 50 meters long. It looked more like a personal transport than a military vessel. Kovan's weapons officers laughed when they saw it. Should we destroy it, Admiral? One of them asked. No, Kovan said. Let them come. Let them try to impress us with their little toy. The ship came closer. Its name was painted on the side in both human and Valori script. It was called Morning Calm, such a peaceful name for what was supposed to be a demonstration of power. Kovan watched the small ship approach, felt his confidence return. Whatever tricks the humans had prepared, they could not be that impressive. The Valori had ruled the stars for millions of years. They had nothing to fear from jumped-up primitives in a tiny ship. He was about to learn how wrong he was. The Morning Calm stopped a few kilometers from the Valori fleet. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the ship did something impossible. It disappeared. Before Kovan could even react, the ship reappeared on the other side of his fleet. Then it disappeared again and appeared above them. Then below. Then it was somehow inside the formation. Then outside, moving faster than any sensor could track. What is happening? Kovan shouted, "Track that ship." We cannot, Admiral. It is not moving through normal space. It is simply appearing in new locations. The demonstration had begun, and Kovan finally began to understand the size of his mistake. Captain Doyen sat in the command chair of the Morning Calm, with a relaxed expression on his face. He was a middle-aged man with calm eyes and steady hands. He had commanded ships in distant galaxies and explored places no living being had ever seen. This mission was simple by comparison. He just needed to show the Valore what humanity had become without scaring them to death. His crew was small but skilled. Engineer Minji controlled the ship's systems with expert precision. Weapons Officer Jinwoo monitored the demonstration protocols. Navigator Sahi handled the spatial jumps that were currently confusing the entire Valori fleet. How are they reacting? Doyen asked. Their communication channels are filled with panic, Sahi reported. They do not understand how we are moving. They will understand soon enough. Minji, prepare the next phase. The Morning Calm stopped its teleportation display and held position in front of the Valori flagship. One opened a communication channel to Admiral Kovan. Admiral, thank you for your patience. We will now demonstrate some additional capabilities. Please remain calm. We will not harm you or your ships. Kovan's face appeared on screen. His 4 eyes were wide with shock, but he was trying to maintain his composure. How did you do that? That movement is impossible. Nothing can travel without crossing the space between points. We call it spatial folding, Doyon explained gently. We learned the technique about 6,000 years ago. It is considered basic transportation technology now. But I understand it must seem strange to you. Shall we continue? Coven wanted to say no. He wanted to order his fleet to open fire and destroy this impossible little ship. But something in his gut told him that would be a terrible mistake. He nodded slowly. Jinwoo activated the next demonstration. The morning calm projected a gravity field around itself. It was a gentle field, carefully controlled, but its effects were immediate. The entire Valori fleet began to drift. 500 massive warships, each one capable of destroying cities, were pushed aside like leaves in a gentle wind. The ships moved 3,000 kilometers before the field was released. None of them were damaged. Their systems remained functional, but every Valori on those ships now understood something terrible. That tiny human ship had just moved their entire fleet without any effort at all. Gravity manipulation, Doyon said. We can increase or decrease gravitational forces in any area we choose. It has many uses in construction and transportation. Admiral Coven gripped his chair with all four hands. His officers were staring at their consoles in disbelief. Some of them were crying. Others looked like they wanted to run but had nowhere to go. There is one more thing we would like to show you, Doyon continued. Minji, please proceed. Engineer Minji was a small woman with quick hands and a brilliant mind. She activated the ship's construction suite with a series of precise commands. Outside the morning calm, matter began to gather. Atoms pulled together from empty space. Molecules formed and combined. Metal took shape in patterns that matched exact specifications. The Valori watched in absolute silence as the morning calm built a ship. Not a small ship, not a simple structure. It built an exact copy of the Eternal Mandate, Admiral Coven's 3-kilometer flagship. Perfect in every detail. The construction took 47 seconds. We would like to offer this ship as a gift, Doyon said. Consider it a gesture of friendship from humanity to the Valori Dominion. It is fully functional and ready for use. Pell, the science officer, made a sound that was somewhere between a laugh and a sob. They just built a copy of our flagship in less than a minute. They built it from nothing, from empty space. Admiral Coven could not speak. He could only stare at the duplicate of his ship floating peacefully beside the original. Every detail was perfect. Every system was operational. Humans had just demonstrated that they could create entire fleets in minutes. His 500 ships meant nothing. His weapons meant nothing. His entire military career meant nothing. The Valor Dominion itself, the great power that had ruled for millions of years, meant nothing against a civilization that could do what he had just witnessed. What are you? Coven finally managed to ask. His voice was barely a whisper. Doyon smiled kindly. There was no arrogance in his expression, no mockery. He looked at Coven the way a teacher might look at a struggling student. We are human, he said. We were primitives once, just as you remember. But you gave us 10,000 years. We used that time well. Coven thought about the truce his ancestors had offered. They had been so confident, so certain that 10,000 years would not matter. They had laughed at the frightened humans with their bronze swords and simple tools. They had never imagined that those same humans would one day build rings around stars and cross galaxies before breakfast. What happens now? Coven asked. That depends on you, Admiral. The truce is over. You came here expecting to conquer us. Obviously, that is no longer possible, but we have no desire to destroy you. We have no desire to conquer your dominion. We simply want to talk. Talk. Coven repeated the word like it was foreign to him. Yes, talk. We have been alone in the universe for a very long time, Admiral. We found many worlds but very few intelligent species. When we detected your fleet approaching, we were actually excited. You were the first contact we have had with the Valori in 10,000 years. On the morning calm, the crew watched the Valori response carefully. Minji monitored their ship systems for any sign of hostile action. Jinwoo kept the defense protocols ready just in case. But Sahi noticed something else. Captain several Valori officers appear to be experiencing emotional distress. Their vital signs indicate shock and confusion.
Ow.
Doyon nodded thoughtfully. They just had their entire understanding of the universe shattered. That is not easy for anyone. He addressed Coven again. Admiral, we have a diplomatic station nearby. Our representatives would like to meet with you. There's much to discuss, and I believe you have many questions. Will you come? Coven looked at his officers. He looked at the duplicate of his flagship floating outside. He looked at the tiny ship that had just demonstrated power beyond anything he could comprehend. He had come to conquer. He had come to claim Earth for the Dominion. Instead, he had discovered that humanity had become something beyond his worst nightmares. But they were offering to talk. They were offering friendship instead of destruction. In their position, the Velour would have simply eliminated the threat. That is what powerful civilizations did. Perhaps Coven thought that was why the Velour had stopped advancing. Perhaps that was why humanity had not. I will come, Coven said quietly. I will hear what you have to say. Captain Doyen smiled warmly. Excellent. Follow us, Admiral. Welcome to human space. Far across the galaxy, in the heart of Velour space, the Dominion Council gathered in emergency session. The 12 species that made up the Dominion had not met like this in thousands of years. There had been no need. Their power was absolute. Their rule was unchallenged. Nothing in the universe could threaten them, until now. High Chancellor Moreth presided over the meeting. He was ancient even by Velour standards, his scaled skin pale with age, his 6 eyes clouded but still sharp. He had led the Dominion for 3,000 years. In all that time, he had never felt fear. Today, fear gripped his heart like a cold hand. Explain to me how this happened, Moreth demanded. His voice echoed through the great chamber. Explain how a species of primitives became more powerful than the entire Dominion in just 10,000 years. The Dominion historians stepped forward nervously. They had spent days researching, trying to understand the impossible. What they found did not make them feel better. High Chancellor, the lead historian began. The answer lies in the fundamental difference between our civilizations. The Velour Dominion achieved technological perfection 2 million years ago. Since then, we have maintained that perfection. We have not changed because we believed there was no need to change. And the humans? Moreth asked. The humans never stopped changing. They never achieved what we would call stability. Instead, they existed in constant chaos. They competed with each other endlessly. They fought wars. They destroyed themselves and rebuilt. They made terrible mistakes and learned from those mistakes. Another historian continued. Every failure pushed them to try harder. Every disaster forced them to innovate. They did not preserve their achievements. They improved upon them constantly. In 10,000 years, they went through more cycles of destruction and renewal than we have experienced in 10 million. Moreth sat in silence for a long moment. You are telling me that our greatest strength was actually our greatest weakness? Yes, High Chancellor. We stopped growing because we believed we had reached the end. The humans never believed they had reached the end. They always thought there was more to discover, more to create, more to become. The council members murmured among themselves. Some were angry, refusing to accept that primitives could have surpassed them through something as simple as refusing to give up. Others were curious, wondering what humanity might teach them. A few were already calculating how to profit from this new relationship. Meanwhile, on the Laughing Sun, the first diplomatic meeting was underway. Admiral Coven sat across from Diplomat Hannah in a comfortable meeting room. The room was designed to put guests at ease. Soft lighting, pleasant colors, and furniture adapted to fit Velour bodies. Even the temperature had been adjusted to match Velour preferences. These small kindnesses confused Coven more than the demonstration had. The humans had absolute power over his fleet. They could have demanded anything. Instead, they offered comfortable chairs and warm drinks. Ambassador Trell had joined Kovan for the meeting. She was younger than him, a career diplomat who had never seen combat. But she was wise enough to know that this meeting was more important than any battle. Why did you not conquer us? Trell asked Hannah directly. Your expansion reached the edges of our space thousands of years ago. Our sensors detected your ships. We did not understand what we were seeing at the time. We thought they were natural phenomena. But you knew we were there. Why did you not simply take our worlds? Hannah considered the question carefully. She was very good at her job. She knew that words spoken now would shape the relationship between two civilizations for generations to come. "We remembered the truce," Hannah said. "When the first human explorers reached the boundaries of your space, they recognized Valori signatures. They reported back to Earth. Our leaders at the time debated what to do. Some wanted to forget the truce. Some wanted revenge for the fear our ancestors had suffered." "What stopped them?" Kavin asked. "Time," Hannah replied simply. 10,000 years is a very long time, Admiral. Anger fades. Pain heals. The humans who signed that truce were long dead. The humans who debated expansion had no personal connection to that ancient fear. They only had a choice about what kind of civilization they wanted to be. Sherelle leaned forward with interest. And what did they choose? They chose to honor the agreement. They chose to wait. They also chose to hope. Hannah smiled gently. "We hoped that when the truce ended, we might meet you as friends rather than conquerors. We had grown tired of being alone in the universe." Kavin shook his head slowly. "If our positions were reversed, we would have destroyed you. We would have seen your weakness and exploited it. That is the way of power." Perhaps, Hannah acknowledged. "But we have learned something in our long journey through the stars. Power is not the same as strength. The ability to destroy is not the same as the ability to build. We could have conquered your dominion. We still could if we wanted. But what would that give us? More territory we do not need? More subjects we do not want? We have hundreds of trillions of humans spread across 47 galaxies. We have resources beyond counting. We have nothing to gain from your destruction." "Then what do you want?" Terrell asked. Hannah's smile widened. "We want conversation. We want exchange. We want to learn about your cultures, your histories, your art. We want to share our discoveries and see what you might do with them. We want to end our loneliness." Kavin thought about his fleet, still orbiting outside the station. He thought about his warriors, trained all their lives to conquer and kill. He thought about the Dominion Council who had sent him here expecting victory and glory. "Our leaders will not accept this easily," Kavin warned. "They are proud. They have ruled for millions of years. They will not want to admit that they have been surpassed by a species they once dismissed as primitive animals." "We understand," Hannah said. "We are patient. We have waited 10,000 years for this moment. We can wait a little longer for your leaders to accept the new reality."
"Oh?"
Trell studied Hannah's face for signs of deception. She found none. The human diplomat genuinely meant every word. This was not a trick or a trap. Humanity truly wanted peace. "There is something I do not understand," Trell said. "You speak of loneliness, but you have hundreds of trillions of your own kind. How can you be lonely?" Hannah looked out the window at the stars. "Because we are all human. We share the same history, the same basic nature. We have different cultures now, different ways of thinking, but at our core, we are still one species. For 10,000 years, we have wondered if there was anyone else out there. Anyone truly different? Anyone who could show us something we could never discover on our own." She turned back to face the Valori diplomats. "You are the first. You terrified our ancestors, yes, but you also inspired them. The memory of your visit drove humanity to reach for the stars. In a strange way, you created us. We would very much like to repay that debt with friendship rather than conflict." Admiral Kavin felt something he had not expected to feel. He felt hope. For the first time since entering human space, he began to believe that this impossible situation might end well. "I will speak to the council," he said. "I will tell them what I have seen and what you have offered. I cannot promise they will listen." "That is all we ask," Hannah replied. "The rest will come with time." 6 months passed after the first meeting on the Laughing Sun. In that time, the universe changed forever. The Dominion Council debated endlessly. Some demanded war, despite the obvious impossibility of victory. Some called for isolation, a retreat behind their borders to pretend humanity did not exist. But slowly, painfully, the majority came to accept the truth. The universe had changed. The Valori could either change with it or fade into irrelevance. High Chancellor Moreth made the final decision. He would travel to Earth personally. He would meet these humans who had grown from frightened primitives into the most powerful civilization the galaxy had ever seen. He would offer the formal surrender of the Valori Dominion. The ceremony took place on Earth itself. On a vast green plain that had once been part of a land called Korea, the humans had chosen this location deliberately. It was the ancestral homeland of their current diplomatic leadership. It was also a reminder that no matter how far humanity spread, they never forgot where they came from. Morith arrived with a delegation of the 12 species. They descended from their shuttle and stepped onto Earth for the first time. The air smelled strange to them. The sun felt different on their skin. Everything was alien and frightening. But the humans who waited for them were smiling. Commander. Taiho stood at the head of the human delegation. Diplomat Hannah was beside him, along with strategist Sunho and the crew of the Morning Calm. Captain Doyon, Engineer Minji, Weapons Officer Jinwoo, Navigator Sahi, and Lieutenant Yuna had all requested to attend. They had been the first to meet the Valor. They wanted to be present for this moment of history. Admiral Kovan walked at the front of the Valori delegation. He carried his ceremonial blade in his 4 hands. According to Valori tradition, a defeated commander must surrender his weapon to the victor and await execution. It was a tradition as old as their civilization. Kovan knelt before Commander Taiho and offered the blade. His hands trembled slightly, but his voice was steady. I offer my weapon and my life. The Valori Dominion is defeated. We submit to human rule. Taiho looked at the blade for a long moment. Then he gently pushed it back toward Kovan. Keep your blade, Admiral. We have no interest in your submission. Kovan looked up with confusion. I do not understand. We came to conquer you. We threatened your world. By every law of war, you have the right to our lives. We do not follow those laws, Taiho said. We are offering you something different. We are offering you membership in a new alliance. Not as servants or subjects. As equals, Morith stepped forward. His ancient eyes studied Taiho carefully. Equals, you have demonstrated power beyond anything we possess. You could crush us easily. Why would you treat us as equals? Taiho smiled. It was the same warm smile that had confused Kovan during their first meeting. Because power is not everything, High Chancellor. Because we have learned that true strength comes from lifting others up, not pushing them down. And because, honestly, we have been waiting 10,000 years for this moment. We would rather make friends than enemies. The ceremony continued, but it was no longer a surrender. It became something else entirely. It became a celebration. Tables were set up on the green plain. Food from 100 human worlds was served alongside traditional Valori dishes. Music played, both human and alien. Laughter echoed across the field as 2 civilizations that should have been enemies discovered they could be something better. Captain Doyon found himself surrounded by young Valor officers. They peppered him with questions about the Morning Calm, about spatial folding, about the construction technology that had duplicated their flagship. Doyon answered what he could and promised to arrange educational exchanges for what he could not. Engineer Minji sat with Pell, the science officer who had once wept at the sight of human technology. Now Pell was excited rather than frightened. She wanted to learn. She wanted to understand. Minji saw a kindred spirit in the alien woman and began explaining the basic principles of gravity. Manipulation. Diplomat Hannah and Ambassador Trell walked together through the crowd. They had become something close to friends during the months of negotiation. They understood each other in ways that their species did not yet understand each other. Will this last? Trell asked. Can 2 civilizations so different truly become allies? I do not know, Hannah admitted. Nothing like this has ever happened before. But I believe it can work. I believe it will work. Because both of our peoples want it to work. High above the celebration, Lieutenant Yuna watched from an observation platform. Strategist Sunho joined her as the evening sun painted the sky in shades of orange and gold. You seem thoughtful, Sunho observed. I was thinking about the truce, Yuna said. 10,000 years ago, the Valori could have destroyed us. They chose to wait instead. They thought they were being merciful, giving us time to prepare for servitude and instead we used that time to surpass them completely. Yes, but that is not what I find interesting. Yuna turned to face her superior. What I find interesting is what we chose to do with our power. We could have conquered them. We could have taken revenge. Instead, we chose mercy. We chose friendship. Sunko nodded slowly. You are wondering if we made the right choice. No, I know we made the right choice. I am wondering if the Velour will understand why. Yuna looked back down at the celebration below. They gave us mercy once, even if it was arrogant mercy. We are giving them mercy now. I hope they see the connection. They will, Suncho said. It may take time. It may take generations. But they will understand eventually. That is the nature of growth. And if we have learned anything in 10,000 years, it is that all things grow given enough time. Below them, Admiral Kovan was learning an ancient Korean drinking game from Captain Doyon. Kovan kept losing, but he was laughing anyway. It was a sound his crew had never heard before. The stern military commander, who had arrived expecting conquest, was discovering something new about himself. Commander Taiho stood at the edge of the celebration, watching it all unfold. Diplomat Hannah approached him with a glass of wine. Seem satisfied, she said. I am, Taiho replied. This is what we dreamed of for 10,000 years. Not conquest. Not domination. Just this. People from different worlds, learning to understand each other. It will not always be easy, Hannah warned. There will be conflicts, misunderstandings, moments when both sides doubt whether this alliance can survive. Of course there will be. That is the nature of any relationship. But we will work through those moments just as we worked through everything else. Taiho raised his glass. To the future, Hannah, whatever it may bring. Hannah raised her glass in return. To the future, they drank together as the sun set over the Korean plain. Behind them, the laughter continued. Human and Velour voices mixed together, creating something new. Something that had never existed before. The 10,000-year truce was over. Something far better had taken its place, and somewhere among the stars, the universe watched with interest. Humanity had passed another test. They had been given power, absolute power, and they had chosen to use it wisely. They had chosen compassion over conquest, friendship over domination, perhaps. The universe thought these strange little creatures from a small blue world were worth watching after all. Perhaps they had more to teach than anyone had ever imagined. The celebration continued long into the night. And when the Velour ships finally departed, they carried more than diplomats and treaties. They carried hope. They carried possibility. They carried the first seeds of a friendship that would change the galaxy forever. The truce had ended. The real story was just beginning.